And welcome to the 100 Black Men of Akron Incorporated community event, partnered with Love Akron. I am Michael Irby, the president of the 100 Black Men of Akron Incorporated. For those of you joining us the first time, I'd like to take a few minutes to share a bit about our organization. For those familiar with the organization, to provide some of the good things that have happened since the last year we've been involved in. Where do we go from here? We have since our last community event, we have had increased membership with our organization. We have had about 6 new members that have joined the 100 Black Men of Akron. We've had one member that is not a Black man. We value diversity and inclusion. And so at this present time, we do have a new member that is not Black. His name is Steve Bowie. He is the president of the Akron Rotary Club here in Akron, Ohio. Also, I'd like to share with you some good things that have happened with our organization from the University of Akron. The 100 Black Men of Akron has created a new initiative at the University of Akron with their endorsement. We have created what we call our Collegiate 100. We have 9 young men on campus that basically will be doing the same work as 100 Black Men in Akron. They fall under our membership, as they fall under our umbrella as 100 Black Men. These young men have created this organization basically with their own leadership and recruiting young men on campus to be a part of this through their efforts in nurturing and enhancing the academic achievement and personal growth of young African Americans. They will put the same effort on the University of Akron campus, which will overall increase the retention rate of students and help young men find purpose through faith, finance, fitness, and lifestyle. As you know, our organization, cornerstone of the 100 Black Men, we focus on 4 things in our organization, and that is education, mentoring, health and wellness, and economic development. We mentor youth from the age, from 4th grade to 12th grade and beyond. We're in Akron Public Schools mentoring kids through the week. There's been a lot of changes here in Summit County since the last time that we were on this community forum. We have a new superintendent in Summit County, and we also have a new chief. Our new superintendent, Mrs. Christine Fowler Mack. Maybe one of these times we would get her on this platform and just have a discussion with her with Akron Public Schools. But tonight we have our new chief is Steve Millett, and also with him we have Lieutenant Miller. We are pleased tonight to continue our conversation on where do we go from here. Tonight our moderator will be Mr. Tom Peeples. Tom is our at-large board for the 100 Black Men of Akron, and tonight he will be our moderator. Tom Peeples.
All right, thank you, President Irby. Appreciate the intro. What I'd like to do really is maybe explain to everyone that this is really a continuation of a conversation that we started back in August when the chief was new on the job. And really, we'd like to ask the chief some questions, really some follow-up questions that are really similar to the questions that we asked when he first got on the job, and really take this opportunity to explore some of the things that he's learned and done since he's been in the role. So with that, certainly want to welcome and thank Chief Millett for being here. Good to see you again, sir. And
you too, Tom.
Certainly look forward to you and Lieutenant Miller's conversation this evening.
Thank you for having us. I feel so honored to be visiting with you and seeing you again, although it's not in person. This is again, I thank you for inviting us into the forum.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So, like I mentioned, what we'll do is really just move into really some of the same questions we asked you in August when you had really been brand new on the job. And really the purpose is for us to have a conversation. If Lieutenant Miller is going to also participate, that's perfectly, that we'd welcome that as well. So when we talked back in August, one of the things we talked about were, your top 3 priorities for the city of Akron, right? And what I'd be interested to hear is, what are your top 3 priorities now that you've been here, 6, 7 months, or
7 months.
how 7 months on the roll, and your top 3 priorities, and specifically some the priorities that everything that the police force does impacts the community, but maybe explain how your priorities are impacting the community.
So before I start, I want to offer an apology to the community because I feel like I have some responsibility in this. When I got here, I kept on asking my staff, when's it going to snow? When's it going to snow? When am I going to see the snow? I keep on hearing about Ohio winters, but and then it hit. So if I jinxed us or, summoned the snow gods, I apologize, because I think I earned my stripes this past winter, because this was a brutal one. But to answer your question, Tom, the priorities are still pretty much the same. So number one priority for this police department is to continue to work that started before I got here, to build bridges into the community that is Akron, to find better ways and innovative ways to better connect, communicate, understand each other, and to get this message very, very clear. We are this community's servants. We're not here to be served. We are here to serve. We are your servants. And in order to do that, we have to be out in the community building this bridge. Now, the bridge, we can do the bulk of the work because I think it's incumbent upon us as the police department to do the bulk of the work. But we can't complete the bridge all by ourselves. It's going to take effort and willingness from the community. Now, I think the bridge, it's there. Tom, one of the things that I've found in the last 7 months as I've interacted with the community is I see and I feel the community support for their servants here in the police department, not just the police officers, but the civilian staff as well. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a store or in an environment where people don't know I'm the chief, and they say, thank you for your service. And that transcends all races, all religions, everybody. And then when they find out that I am the chief, because it's over here, they read the badge, they go on to tell me, some positive things, but I also hear the things that we can do better. And that is so important in that communication. And that bridge has got to go both ways. It travels both directions. And the gates are up, and this is their police department. They can come in and help us design it. That's priority number 1. Priority number 2, and this is going to take the entire community to achieve, but to collaboratively work together as an equal partner with everybody that calls Akron home, whether it's residents, businesses, faith-based organizations, everybody, to attack and address this god-awful violence that we have seen in this city and across the nation. In the last 2 years, we've been plagued by really 2 major diseases or plagues. COVID changed our life, and this violence has been changing our life. People are staying in their homes. They're not coming out into the public because they fear crime. Our principal mission is to reduce crime, reduce the fear of crime, and enhance the quality of life for everybody who calls Akron home. But we got to do that together. And how do we do that together? I think maybe we'll talk some more about that as we go on. And then the last priority, which is we're about to launch here in about a week, is a recruitment campaign to identify the most talented individuals in this city and across the nation to join our police department to serve the community. A diverse police department, a diverse group of people to join our ranks. And if you will allow me, Lieutenant Miller, did I miss anything, or is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think that's spot on. I definitely recognize and agree with how you frame that, Chief, with respect to not only the bridge being built, but ensuring that that's a two-way pathway, access in, access out, that incorporates the minds, the energies, and the sentiments of all people collaborating to ensure that the community is safe, and that's a community responsibility. And then I think what gets lost from time to time is this notion of transparency and trust, and those are very vital, game-changing attributes that are required to have a healthy relationship with the community. But I think to the Chief's point, I'm sure that starts with us. We have to demonstrate ourselves to be worthy servants of that trust, and that's something that he communicated. The Chief has almost immediately, day one, if not day one, week one. That was very vital to him. So as it relates to all of that campaigning and collaboration, and now we're on the heels of launching our recruitment/hiring campaign. That official announcement is Monday, March 28th. And one of the central themes of that campaign is to, as the Chief mentioned, attract, a well-rounded, diverse pool of community-centered individuals to serve this community. And that, again, starts Monday. And I couldn't be more honored to spearhead that initiative on behalf of the police department.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So Chief, it's I don't know what either we're on the same wavelength, but you really approached a couple of in your priorities. You approached really a couple of the topics that I definitely want to explore, really, in the questions that we had prepared. Certainly appreciate the concept of building the bridge, right? I mean, we are all in this community together. You touched upon the violence that's really a plague, as well as how you increase the transparency and accountability in the police force. So my next question really is going to be around the violence, right? So clearly you really don't have to turn on the news or listen for very long to see how our young people are hurting themselves, killing themselves, both here in Akron, in the greater Akron, Cleveland area, and really across the country. So I know it's top of mind for me. I have a 21-year-old son and a 17-year-old son, right? So from your perspective, from the Akron PD perspective, what have you learned, and where do you think where we need to go with regard to starting to curb this violence, right? It's not going to fix itself, and in that, I know this is a long question. Organizations like the 100 Black Men of Akron and other organizations, Love Akron, Swag, all these other organizations that are out there that are focused on our young people. Where do you see us going, and how do we get there together?
You said the word together. We got to travel this path together. We play a part, Tom. The police department plays a part. I could tell you all the success stories that we had this past year and the last year. All of our violent crime is decreasing in double-digit numbers, in part for the role that we play. Our officers are out there working very, very hard to engage with the community in a positive way, to not be seen as occupiers in the neighborhoods, but at the same time, going in the most troubled neighborhoods and getting the guns off the street. Last year, I think in 2020, and Lieutenant Miller, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we recovered 1,200 guns. This past year, it was close to 2,000 firearms that we recovered through traffic stops and other areas. We're identifying, Tom, it's incredible to me, man. When we examine what's going on, it's statistically, it's like a handful of people that are engaged in more violent crime than most others. I can tell you, I think it was in October or November, we had a homicide in our city. We were able to identify the suspect immediately. There was a standoff at the house. Our SWAT team went out there and they safely took this person into custody after a long period of operations. When that person went to jail, we were on track to surpass the homicide rate of 50 the year before. We put him in jail. The homicide stopped. They stopped, indicating to me, and I'm not trying to disparage the individual. He's innocent until proven guilty, but we believe that he was involved in many of the violent acts within our city. So the community's involvement in this, because there was somebody in the community, I was out there at the scene, and somebody in the community went like this, and they pointed to a house, and they said, he's in there. Had it not been for that community member stepping forward and being brave enough to help us, that person would have still been out among the community. And how many more homicides would have happened? So you said together, and it is together. We are doing our part. Our officers. I'm very proud of this police department. I've only been here 7 months. I inherited a good police department, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We got work to do. We got a lot of work to do. We got to improve in many different areas. But the men and women of this police department, I've witnessed it firsthand. They are willingly going into difficult situations and willing to lay down their life for the people of Akron. But we are only one small piece. I'm trying to center myself on the screen. We're only one small piece of this puzzle. Before I got here, an 8-year-old little girl, Michaela Pickett, I believe was the 8-year-old's name, was shot and killed at a party. And I believe there was a lot of community outrage at that. And there should have been. Tom, somebody saw that shooting. Other than the shooter, somebody saw it. We have been unable to take this person into custody. The community has got to come forward and reclaim Akron. They've got to step forward together with us in solidarity together to make this the safest community in the city. They are the eyes and ears of the police department. And that's residents, business owners. But I got to tell you, Tom, I was so honored that you all invited me to your February 12th event here in Akron, the National Mentoring Month Conference at the Downtown Library that the 100 Black Men of Akron hosted. And I was very, very impressed with the speakers. And by the way, Michael Irby talked about Akron University and recruitment. We're hiring, Michael, and I'm going to ask you to please, especially those two guys that spoke, put a good word in for us, sir, because we need people like that. Young men, young women that are willing to come in and have the heart to serve. And that's where I think, and I'm going to have an ask for you, Michael, at the end of this, by the way. The 100 Black Men of Akron invited us to this event. You graciously allowed us to set up a recruitment booth there. You didn't have to do that, but you did it because you're invested in this city. And you know that we play a role in the community safety, not the only role, but a role. You invited me. You gave me the opportunity to speak. I can't thank you enough for that. My relationship with Kemp Boyd, I mean, he's a brother. I consider him my brother, and the whole organization of Love Akron and all the different phenomenal groups that are stepping in and saying, we want to help. You're not seeing that across the country, everybody. And so I get off script here and I forget if I answered the question or not, but the way in which we're going to address this violence this plague is doing it together, using us to keep people safe. And Tom, I understand the fear of stepping forward and saying, he's in there, or, hey, this is my brother, this is my son, this is my daughter. But that son or daughter could be the next victim. And when you have the shootings, and these are the things that keep me up at night, when you have the shootings, you have the loss of life of the person who's shot and killed. But then you also have the loss of life of the person who's going to go to prison for the rest of their life. If we can intervene before it gets to that point, if the person has a weapon inside the house, call us, let us come, let's address it, let's get the weapon out, let's get them on the right path with all the different community groups and everybody that's standing ready to help that young person out to get off the path of destruction, on the path of success. Let's intervene now together. And I think if we're able to do that, then I think that we're going to make a turn. I'm concerned about the nation. I am, but I'm most concerned about Akron.
Okay. Again, fair enough. Thank you. Thank you for the very thorough answer, which also then leads me to, as we talk about how, Joe Q. Citizen, right, is involved, is aware and in the community, seeing things that are happening, across the country. There have been a lot of reasons why people wouldn't necessarily trust, the folks in blue, right? So part of building that trust is building that relationship, and we've heard a lot about accountability and transparency. Accountability and transparency in what you're doing in policing, in policies and procedures, and really based on, again, your experience in other cities as well as your time here. How do you see the accountability and transparency growing? What does that look like? What should an average citizen expect? What should that look like, right? If we keep, and I know I'm kind of preaching a little bit, but this is important, right? You see on the news people protesting accountability and transparency, right? What does that mean? And as a citizen, what should I expect? Because that doesn't mean I'm going to be in the booking room, when somebody's going through that process. But what does that mean, and how is it? What does that mean to me?
But you are, and the reason is because we have cameras now. Okay. We have cameras in locations within places like the jail. The jail has those things. Our officers have the cameras that they carry on their body. So in terms of Akron and the Akron Police Department, what does accountability look like? We are answerable to the community. Tom, we're human beings. I have a department full of human beings. Human beings are flawed. Human beings are going to make mistakes. There are mistakes that are true mistakes, and then there are things that happen that aren't mistakes, that come from a place of hate and bigotry or anger. I have not seen that yet here in Akron, and I pray God that I don't expect it. But if it happens, we're going to deal with it, whether it's through, if the person's salvageable. If it's hate, then I'm sorry that you're not salvageable, you're out. But if it's other mistakes that we can provide additional training, and making the employee aware of what their actions caused in the community to have that individual grow, we're going to invest. We're investing a tremendous amount of time and money in training and doing things, talking about implicit bias. We're having cultural conversations. We're going to expand on these things. But one of the things that I haven't announced yet, because I'm still in the formation of, is I'm going to be commissioning advisory councils to the chief. And it'll be based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion. And getting the community leaders from these different demographics to meet with the chief periodically to help me design and develop this police department to better serve those communities. But I'm not going to, this isn't a selfish plug. This is fact. And again, I can't take credit for it because I inherited this police department. Last year, we had 150,000 contacts in the community. And that's not counting all of the, simple interactions of officers just saying hello and talking to people. But we had 150,000 contacts. Our use of force in those incidents, when you take it all together, is like 0.031%, which is incredible. I'm from a chief that's been a chief for 11 years, a guy who's been in the profession for 33 years. That is incredible. And then of those 150,000 contacts, Tom, we had 52 complaints. 52. And some of those complaints came from within the organization itself. Supervisors bringing things forward. The thing that I would ask, and Tom, I understand fully. When I saw what happened in Minneapolis, I wanted to vomit. I really did. I was so offended by what I saw. Somebody dressed like me, wearing this that represents everybody, doing what that man did. It was reprehensible. It was criminal, and he is where he needs to be. And God bless him. I hope he repents and everything else, because what he did was wrong. And we've seen those incidents in our country, over the years. But the one thing that I would ask the people of Akron is, please base your judgment on your police officers based on their performance and their conduct, not the performance of somebody that is over 800 miles away or further. I understand the outrage. And I got to tell you, one of the good things that came out of, if anything good came out of it, we're finally having these conversations about race, about systemic racism, about bigotry, about all these things that I've been waiting for. It seemed like every time something would happen prior to George Floyd, there'd be this swell of emotion and outrage, and I'm thinking back, we're going to weigh into it finally, and then people will go back to sleep. People aren't going back to sleep this time. Neither are police officers. And one of the things that I saw that was a significant change, Tom, from other incidents that I've witnessed in my career outside of the departments that I worked in, nobody came forward, no credible person came forward and tried to justify what Derek Chauvin did. You saw chiefs of police and officers across the country take knees in solidarity with the Black community. You saw outrage, because they reflected me. And I don't do that. Mike Miller doesn't do that. So and that's one of the barriers, Tom, that we're going to have to overcome in our effort to recruit from the Black community specifically, is that lack of confidence in us, the trust, and people seeing themselves wearing this uniform and doing the things that only police officers can do. We've got to earn that trust. We got to earn that respect, and we've got work to do. And in partnership with groups like the 100 Black Men of Akron, Love Akron, and all the other phenomenal groups in Akron, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to move the dial on that and see a better turnout on July 8th and July 9th when we give our written exam, because we've got to build deeper diversity in this police department.
Okay, so again,
lengthy answer.
That's okay. I mean, the purpose of this is to have the conversation, and there are a couple of additional questions around kind of policies and procedures, and then maybe we can come back to essentially how things are working inside the department when we start talking about once we recruit, then how do we retain, promote, etc. But before we get to that, because I do want to really give you an opportunity to talk about your vision there. When you look at what you've seen thus far, right? Again, kind of in a follow-up to the questions that we were asking in August, how are you using your experience or maybe other things that you've learned to really promote excellence here on the Akron PD, right? So as an organization, how are you? What are the kinds of things that you are doing to make the Akron PD the best PD in the country?
So, and this is no excuse. I've been here 7 months. It's been a long time. But I've been distracted, unfortunately, because I had to get ready for the state peace officer certification exam. So I spent a big chunk of time studying. I had to go to school for a length of time, and that took time out from me focusing on the things that I wanted to focus in on. One of the things that I am exploring is looking at national accreditation for this police department through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA. I was part of the team that started CALEA in Corpus Christi, and then we had it in South Lake and we had it in Bellevue. I think we had it in South Lake, but we did have it in South Lake, but also in Bellevue. What that does, it challenges the organization to ensure that its policies are based in best practices. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and I may miss one group. The groups that make up this is the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, the Police Executive Research Forum, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the National Sheriff's Association, and I know I'm missing one other. These groups get together and they look at policies from something as simple as the way the uniform should appear and to officer conduct, to officer use of force, SWAT teams, K9, the whole operation of the organization, how you handle property safely and effectively and everything. I have not dug into our policies the way I want to yet, but I know that they are in need of adjustment. Some of them are very outdated and antiquated. Before I got here, our deputy mayor over public safety, Charles Brown, was leading the effort through our officers to look at our policies, and we adjusted and amended some of our policies that were actually developed in the 1980s and 1990s. And policing has changed dramatically since then. But CALEA, they have standards that you have to follow, and then you have to prove that you're following them. And they come on site and they do an assessment. There's a public component to this as well, to get the public involved in the development of these policies, which is very important. Look, policing started long time ago. And we were built on systems that basically excluded people and looked upon people as property, right? And going all the way back to the earliest parts of the formation of our country. I think we've made tremendous progress, adjustments in the police profession. But are there things that are remnants of systemic racism in policing? I'm not talking about the entire criminal justice system, because absolutely there is, but in policing. And my answer would be yes, I think so. So we need to really look at our policies to ensure that none of that exists. I'm not saying it does exist in our Akron Police Department policies at all. I don't know, but we need to look at it with a very critical eye to ensure that we're not causing unintentional harms or treating people disparately because of who they are, what they look like, who they love, or any of the other things that lead to that type of behavior.
Okay. Again, thank you for, and you say lengthy, but it's a thorough answer, right? And it's clearly heartfelt. So
cut me off if I go too long, Tom.
No,
you got the power of the moderator.
This is good. This is good. So one of the things that I wanted to circle back to, you did mention, and I believe Lieutenant Miller also mentioned, there was a mention of how the recruiting moving forward, right? So when I think about any organization, especially an organization that is in the community, one would argue that it should reflect the community. And really, I guess I maybe philosophically, and maybe are there some things that are happening to have the Akron PD more reflect the city of Akron?
We're about to launch that. Right now, our police department is made up of, I think the latest stats that I saw was 80% Caucasian. And I think our population, our Black population in Akron is between 30 and 38%. Our representation in the police department from the Black community is about 15%, and it's dropping. We just had a few people retire. They've come to the end of their career, and they've earned a well-earned retirement. I haven't been able to identify anything where that 80% was by design or nefarious. I'm not saying it is or it is. I haven't been able to identify anything. When I brought, and if I point that way to I have 3 dry erase boards in my office. All 3 are dealing with recruitment and hiring and these issues. When I brought my senior staff in, they said, Chief, we've been working hard and this is what we've been doing and everything else. And there seemed to be concerted effort to bring deeper diversity into the police department, but we haven't seen it. We're going to try a few things differently. One of the things that I'm doing, Tom, is I'm going to ask community members, community leaders from the different areas here in Akron to serve on an advisory council or panel to help us design a recruitment campaign. And so, Michael, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Brother Michael, you're one that I'm asking if you would serve on that committee, on that council.
I sure would, Chief.
Okay.
Absolutely, it's an honor to do that.
I want the 100 Black Men of Akron on the team. I'm also going to ask Euphrancia Lash. He doesn't know yet. I tried to call him before, so this didn't come as a surprise. And I've already started making phone calls. Kemp Boyd has agreed. So there's going to be a specific African-American Black team. I'm looking for faith-based leaders, organization leaders. I have a list of names there. And then I'm also looking for the Latina community and the Asian Pacific Islander community. And we'll expand it as we can. I'm looking for guidance. What we've done thus far has worked to a certain degree, but not enough. So I'm gonna ask the community through their leaders to help us design something to where we can get the greatest return on our investment. Again, I've asked Lieutenant Miller to spearhead this effort. I've got tremendous confidence and trust in Mike, and he's already put together his team, and they will start on Monday. And Mike, do you want to weigh in on this a little bit? I don't want to hog the microphone.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. And the chief hit all those
Unlike
points.
me, but go ahead.
The chief hit all those points that I could possibly address anyway, but I do want to underscore something very specific. So a lot of times when we ask ourselves, well, hey, how can we improve with this? We understand the history, we understand the current demographics. There's been concerted efforts historically to ensure that we have an adequate representation and that the police department reflects the community. But to the chief's earlier point, there's always room for improvement. The first order of business is acknowledging that, which we have. And so if you want to change the outcome, most often to a degree, and I'm trying to say this as respectful as possible, but if you want to change the outcome, you almost have to change the people, or you have to ensure you have the right people to solicit the outcome. So one of the first things that we've done so far in framing the foundation to this recruitment campaign is ensuring that the people part of the recruitment campaign do reflect that demographic, do reflect the community. So I think that there's already, a lot of value in that and enhancement in that. And we look very much forward to the collaboration to the groups that the chief mentioned to not only help us find ways to, expand on that and increase those demographic numbers, But also we would ask each individual person listening. Again, recruitment starts March 21st. It will end officially on June 24th, which is a Friday. But we would ask everyone to submit us names, point us in the direction of a young woman, a young male, or someone up to the age of, 41. So 21 to 41, anyone that you think that has a passion and desire
Tommy,
to serve.
that's you, Tom.
Yeah.
I've aged out.
Yeah,
I'm looking at you.
passion or desire to serve, a community-centered passion to serve are the diverse group of folks that we're looking for, hoping for, and that, like I said, a period of time officially opens or launches on Monday, March 28th.
Tom, one of the things that, because I've initiated this effort in the other departments that I've led, most recently Bellevue. And it was similar. It was 80% Caucasian, and where Caucasians represented 49% of the population. Here in Akron, I think we represent somewhere in the 50 percentile. And when I was rolling this out to my employees, one of the things that I heard, and it was very, very sincere from one of my white officers, Chief, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And is there something wrong with me because I'm a white police officer? And I said, absolutely not. And Mike really framed it real well. I addressed it, I think, in an effective way. But Mike, Lieutenant Miller, as we were discussing this, he used an example of a basketball team. You don't want to have a basketball team of all point guards, right? If you have a basketball team of all point guards, you're going to lose. You need diversity. You need a strong forward. You need a center. You need other guards. Football team, you don't want all linemen. They're going to kick your butt, but you're going to lose the game. You need running backs. You need, quarterbacks. Not Tom Brady, but you need a quarterback. I'm joking, Tom Brady. I'm only joking. I'm from New York, so I'm anti.
I'm a Patriots. I'm from Boston originally, and I'm a Patriots fan. So,
well, forgive me too, Tom. But in all seriousness, you need diversity to build strength in the organization in order to be successful. And for us, Tom, you mentioned, yes, we need to reflect the community in which we serve. All the data shows police departments are more successful when they reflect the community that they serve. We didn't get here overnight. It's going to take time, but through, again, working collaboratively with all the organizations, with the community, and as we get out and we start telling our story, they're going to recognize that what happened in Minneapolis wasn't us. Mike Miller was telling me a story a little while ago about a shooting that happened, Michaela Pickett. And Mike, Tom, if you're okay with it, Mike, if you're willing to share that story, this is a reflection of our police officers.
So
by all means.
Yeah. So the context, obviously, when this incident tragically happened to the Pickett family, Michaela Pickett in particular, was really at the height of the protests and things of that nature. We had local protests here that went on for several weeks, and then the related protests that took place around the country. And so there was a lot of groundswell with respect to, diversity and just relationships with the police and the community and just some things like that nature. And again, to the chief's point, like we always have room to improve, right? So no human being is perfect, and where there are opportunities to strengthen and to improve and correct behavior and things of that nature, not only is the police chief committed to doing that, but the entire command staff downward are committed to that. But in the height of this thing, this Michaela Pickett incident happened, and to the chief mentioned too, someone that's an unsolved homicide that we would still very much love to solve for the community, but specifically for the family. But at that incident in particular, when the first responders got to that call, now keep in mind, I do the press releases, the media interaction when they want to know, hey, well, what took place, what happened. So I have to write those responses, and they're very difficult, especially when they impact young people. Very, very tragic, very difficult to work through. So in the height of this very traumatic event, you have police officers, Akron in particular, doing everything they can. They don't flinch, they don't hesitate, there's no fear. And we had two police officers in particular. One was essentially brand new, under 6 months. The other officer was less than 2 years. And they respond to a community different than the one they likely came from externally. They respond and interact with people who are probably different than folks that they've had a long historic context with. And they just thrust themselves into action. But the powerful story is this: it's tragic that this young girl died, but it's amazing at what these officers did. One officer jumped without asking behind the wheel of the paramedic truck and with tears in his eyes, we were told, rushed to the hospital. So an officer driving the med unit with tears in his eyes. And I don't want to, I don't tell the story to, hey, look at us and give us a pat on the back. I'm talking about the humanity in a critical moment, humanity in a fractured, broken moment. You saw two police officers being wholly human, while the other passenger was in the back with the two paramedics trying to save that young girl's life. And that story still gives me chills because it captures the height of our humanity. It captures everything that we want to be for the community. And we strive to do that and have those enhancements and those improvements every day. And I will just say this to close that out. Hopefully the chief won't side-eye me for saying this real quick. I've been here 22 years. And by proximity, I'm closer to the upper command staff over the last, say, 3 years than I've ever been within the 22-year period because I've through promotions and things. But I can tell you, again, I met Mr. Chief Milet as a stranger like you all did, right? So anytime someone comes from outside, everyone has their particular, anxiety moments and what ifs, and we wait and see. I will tell you, in my 22 years, there's not been an ongoing series of difficult conversations that are housed and packaged in what we're talking about here, which is relationships, accountability, race, and all the other aspects that go with that. There have not been a conversation that I've been privy to, that I've been a part of, that is as ongoing and deliberate and intentional as that led by our chief. And he has the growing mutual respect of people like me and many, many others in this agency. So it's refreshing. So instead of avoiding discussions, we welcome them. He welcomes them. And I'm not cheerleading. I'm letting you know what I see as a Black man from a leader in this, what is sometimes considered difficult space. So that's all I had to offer on that. And I just
thank you, Mike. Number one, thanks for telling the story. And I almost feel wrong for telling the story because it came at somebody's expense. I cannot imagine, and if the Pickett family, hears this, sees this, and I need to reach out to them. I can't imagine losing one of my 4 children, period. And they're adults now. I cannot imagine having lost Valerie, Stephen, Christian, or Anna at 8 years old. I can't. And the horror that they have to be living with every single day. And I feel, Tom, I wish we can solve this case. It's not going to bring Michaela back. She's a beautiful 8-year-old little innocent baby. But bringing justice to the family. Michaela's in heaven with Jesus. She is singing with the angels and she's in paradise. I have no doubt. But justice needs to be served on the individual that did this to her and to that family. And again, I'll make another plea. And I'll use every avenue, every opportunity to do it, to please anybody who has that name of the person who did this or has information. Please come forward and share it with us, because I swear before God that everybody in this police department wants to solve that case. We do.
All right. Well, again, thank you for sharing that, and it's quite powerful, and we all remember, understand, and also are very interested in seeing this perpetrator brought to justice. I mean, there's no gray area, no, it's a hard stop, hard return. So one of the things that we've offered to do, and this is changing gears a little bit, we did want to save a minute or two to offer the audience the opportunity through the chat to maybe interject some questions. There have been some really good comments that have been made that I'd say are pretty encouraging. And but before I do that, one of the things as we were thinking about, again, going back to the recruiting, there's the retention and promotion piece, right? And when we think about really the 100 Black Men of Akron, our motto is, they can be what they see, right? So part of that is creating the role models in your organization, such that new recruit says, you know what, there is a future for me here. So maybe as you're thinking about how you're building out your program, that be something that you think about. They can be what they see.
I'm actually going to be getting a placard made up with that phrase. What they see is what they'll be. And I went to your website before the February 12th event, and I saw that. And that is so spot on and so powerful. And if they don't see anything other than what the streets have to offer, well, guess what? The streets are going to suck them up, and we'll be dealing with them in a way that we don't want to. But if we, as the police department, at your invitation, can partner, we are 1,000% in.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, just want to also keep that in mind as really, we're thinking about the next month,
sir.
but what does 10 years from now look like? Because right. Again, this is the community that we are in, and trying to, make sure is going to be the community we want it to be.
Yes, sir.
As I'm looking in the chat, again, a lot of positive comments, but I haven't really seen any questions. So again, for the viewing audience, we have a couple of minutes. Really, there's I'd say the mic. I wouldn't say the mic is open, but the floor is open for any of the comments that people may have.
Any question? I'll address any question anybody has. Nothing's out of bounds. I'm a New York Yankees fan, Tom.
That's okay. It's about dissimilar people working together.
And I love Diet Coke. It's a problem. I know it.
The chat's quiet. Not sure what to make of it. Hopefully people are absorbing it and processing, what they're hearing. I would like to also say, again, not a fan of kind of the dead time. I'm encouraged, really, with a lot of the kind of conversation that we've had. I've personally seen you and interacted with you out in the community, which is different than maybe what I've seen in the past at different events and different places. So I certainly, it's one thing to talk the talk, but it's also another completely different thing to walk the walk. And literally having seen you walk through different places, I think is a testament to your commitment to doing and following through with what you said you were going to do.
Thank you.
In my profession, a very wise boss of mine once told me, it's okay. It's good to trust, right? But it's also as important to verify.
Yes,
right.
Sir.
So again, this is not, we're putting you on notice. This is absolutely not that at all. But this is certainly the call to really continue the conversation, right? And when we talk about our mentors and mentees, we also have accountability partners. And I would suspect there's there are folks like the 100 Black Men, like Love Akron, like some of the other groups out there that want to be accountability partners, right? Where we hold each other accountable for the things that we need to do to make this a better community. So I think, go
Tom,
ahead,
I got
sir.
to tell you, one of the things that I was very pleased that I found when I was interviewing for the process for this job is that this police department adopted a body-worn camera program several years back. I think it is so important that officers be equipped with that technology. There's suspicion on what we do. I get it. I understand, and I do understand where it comes from. The other thing that I was happy that was in place when I got here was the police auditor position. Again, anything that we can do to reassure the community that there is nothing behind the curtain. There's anything. When we mess up, we're going to own it. I'm going to own it. Me personally, I will own it. And we will mess up because we're human beings. But then there's those mistakes that are mistakes, and there are those things that aren't mistakes that potentially are crimes. And I've made it very clear what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm not willing to tolerate. Very, very, very much in line with Mayor Horrigan's vision and Mayor Horrigan's where he's taking this city. And I'm not saying it because he's my boss. I'm not saying it. I'm not. But I am very, very blessed that I've come here and I'm getting to work with a phenomenal team over here. Again, it's not perfect, but their hearts seem like it's in the right spot. It's certainly our mayor.
All right. Well, thank you, Chief Miller, Milet, and Lieutenant Miller. One of the things, again, I appreciate your time this evening. Time that you could be with your families, but you're choosing to spend that time here talking to the community. What I'd like to do is turn it over to President Irby to maybe talk about some of the things that he'd like to share with the community moving forward. So, with that, President Irby, please,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
First, as ending this, I would like to say, Chief Millett, we thank you and Lieutenant Miller for being on our forum tonight. Chief, we think you're doing a great job. I know a lot of the police officers, they don't say anything but good things about your leadership. So you just keep doing what you're doing, my brother. And not just that, the 100 Black Men of Akron are behind you. We will do everything we can to help with this recruitment. I think that with the new initiative that we have at the University of Akron, with our Collegiate 100, might be able to help there. They're looking for things to do in the community. And so we'll put that on their table and see where they can help out with that recruitment. I just want to say to the community, we will be having these community forums at least once a month. And when we talk about where do we go from here, it's basically educating the community. When you talk about where do we go from housing, where do we go from homelessness, where do we go from education since the COVID? How do we help our seniors? How do we keep them safe? All these things are a part of our community forum that we have. Where do we go from here? With the partnership with Love Akron and the 100 Black Men. And we're committed to educating the community. That's what this forum is about. You're hearing it from people who actually, they do the work. So you're getting your answers from individuals that can give you the true story about what's going on here in Akron. And once again, we thank you for being a part of this. And we hope to see you next month. One thing I will say is that the 100 Black Men Leadership Academy is always looking for funding for our young men to do things with them and make them a better individual. In saying that, good night from the 100 Black Men and Love Akron. We'll see you next month. Thank you.